The benefit of a second pair of eyes. It's a very simple concept, one that you've encountered a bajillion amount of times. It's impossible to not have played any video game and encountered a situation where you saw something that was a bit off. Maybe it was a gameplay mechanic, maybe it was an element of the story, something about the world design, inconsistencies, characters that were just not that good, just about anything, and you wonder, if I can see this, if I can discern that this is not right, that this is wrong, that this is fundamentally broken in some aspect, why didn't the developer fix it? Why didn't the developer, usually a big studio with a bunch of different people working on it, see this, correct it, and not make me go through it now and experience it like it is? I mean, they must have seen it, right? They must have. And they most likely did, and yet they didn't. They say that hindsight is a bitch, or hindsight is 2020. It's an American thing, I'm not really familiar with the origin of it, but the idea is that after a while, you take a look back at something that you've done, something that you've said, and you sort of have a different perspective on it. That's easy to do with anything. After it's been a while, yeah, you see things differently. But when you're creating something, you don't. You don't see actually what you're making a lot of the time. You're seeing what you want to make. Probably the easiest way I can explain this is typing errors. You type up something, you write it, and there are a few letters missing, maybe you misspelled a word, but if you read it a second after you wrote it, especially if it's a big thing, you don't see the errors. To you, they're not there. You're reading what's in your mind, what's in your buffer basically. You are reading what you wanted to write. That's a very common problem. I actually had no idea it was common until I mentioned it in a course about journalism, and the instructor said that yeah, that's very common, which is why you always need a second pair of eyes. The same is true for game development. You desperately need a second pair of eyes. Because you know what happens when you don't have a second pair of eyes? Elemental War of Magic happens. This is a game that I was very excited about 6 years ago, even before that when it was announced in, what was it, 2008? It was developed by the people at Stardock, a studio that was then a lot smaller than it is now. It didn't have a streamlined structure that separated games from software, and basically everybody was doing a lot of other jobs in the company. The CEO and owner, Brad Wardell, said it was akin to wearing too many hats. And when you wear too many hats, for one, you start looking like a Team Fortress 2 character, and then there's also the problem of you being unable to see what exactly it is that you are doing. Elemental War of Magic was released in a very, very poor state. It had features that did not work properly, it had elements that were not fully fleshed out, and it required several months of patching to get it to a level that can be considered acceptable. But when it was released, the developer, mainly Brad Wardell, the CEO and owner, was not overly keen on the criticism that the game received, because he did not see it as being flawed. At the time, he still was seeing what he wanted to make. He was still seeing the game that they planned out, the overly complicated and quite astonishing in terms of depth and complexity strategy game, and not the mess that came out, the mess that sort of had problems working a lot of the time and had plenty of design issues. He later realized that no, the game isn't good, it's actually kind of in a horrible state, and he did something that I don't remember seeing done a lot in the gaming industry. He gave everyone that bought the game all the sequels. Every other game they would make as a continuation of this concept would be free for them. Now you can imagine, he basically guaranteed that the core audience of this game, the people that bought it, would not generate any sort of profit for the sequels. That's sort of suicidal in terms of economics. And yet it worked out because Stardock doesn't rely entirely on video game profits to make a living. It has the software division that is quite profitable, and they also had a digital distribution service at the time called Impulse, which they sadly sold. and GameStop kind of buried it. I actually have no idea what happened to the games that I owned on Impulse. Not that there were many of them, but it's not important. The issue faced by Elemental War of Magic would have been solved by a second pair of eyes. A fresh perspective from people that were in no way linked to the development, that could not have any sort of preconceptions about what it was, what it had to be, what it was shaping up to be, and just saw it for what it was. Incomplete. Messed up. And actually, we sort of had it. Elemental had a very extensive beta test. It started even before the graphics engine was implemented. You would play on a cloth map, and people did report bugs, they did complain about some of the issues that the game had, and they promised that they would be repaired and updates. Some of them were, but some of them were just kept for one last big patch before release that would solve everything. And it didn't. The people at Stardock believed it would. They believed they had fixed everything. They believed that it was working properly. They saw what they intended to create, which is especially easy when you are exhausted, and by that time the people were kind of exhausted. I don't remember exactly if they were in crunch mode at the end, but it sort of sounds like they were, especially from what was being said about there being too many hats. So the final product was kind of and it was after the patches. But the later games, the ones that were given out for free to the people that bought Elemental, they didn't have the same issues, because by that time Stardock had realized something was wrong and needed to be fixed. Not just in the game's code, but in the way the company was structured. So they got more people, they created new positions to make sure that there would be checks and balances for everything, and we got games like Fallen Enchantress, which was a more streamlined version of Elemental. It didn't have the dynasty system, it didn't have some of the legacy methods by which the cities expanded and a lot of other stuff, but it was an objectively better game. Same goes for its expansion, and for the third one that came out, Sovereign King, which was a completely different take on the same idea. One that, again, worked, because by this time Stardock understood it needed to be more careful about how the game is developed, about actually having a second pair of eyes, look things over, and make sure that what is being created is actually good and is not just made with the intention of being good at some point in the future. The reason I bring this up now, 6 years later, is because the phenomenon is still present in a lot of the gaming industry. You saw it for yourselves in something like Duke Nukem Forever, you saw it in Aliens Colonial Marines, you saw it in the way that Ubisoft designed the last couple of Assassin's Creed games before they decided that, hey, maybe we should actually try and do something different. You saw it in Call of Duty, you saw it in Battlefield, you still see it everywhere. We can try and pass it off as the developers or the publisher not caring, which in the case of Electronic Arts, the publisher just does not care. We had an issue in our country. We have an EA studio that handles QA, was working on the last Medal of Honor game, the one that was horrible, and they knew it was horrible. One of the testers just came out and said it in public on a gaming site that there was no way for all the bugs to be fixed by release date. He was fired, breach of confidence and all that, but he was right, that game did not work properly on release. But besides that, the total lack of interest, there is also this problem, the problem of not seeing what you're actually making, which is why early access turns out to not be a bad idea when you actually listen to the feedback, when you actually take a step back and see what the people are talking about. This is why beta tests exist, and I mean actual beta tests, not commercials, not demo versions, which is what beta tests sort of are now. Which is kinda sad, because nothing actually gets fixed. And it's a problem that can be easily addressed just by letting other people see what you're doing. They have playtesters for this. Sadly, some of the playtesters turn out to be, well, let's just say that maybe not everyone should be a playtester, just cast the people that made Uncharted 4. And also some developers want testers that have never played a game before, like Peter Molyneux, because if someone has played a video game before, they may sort of realize that, hey, this is actually not very good. Also, very important, actually listening to the feedback they give. Not just passing it off as, well, they don't know what they're talking about. We made this game, we know better than they do. A situation that is a bit too common in the case of certain studios. So that would be the benefit of a second pair of eyes. And a third one, a fourth one, and so on. And if you're still watching, first, thank you. And second, in the comments, please write a mechanic, a bit of story, an aspect of a game that you found to be utterly broken and yet was never addressed by the developer. Something that just was not working properly and it was considered as being okay, not having issues. You know, like the launch version of the R8 revolver in Counter-Strike Go or most of Windows 10 anniversary update. I'm curious to learn what you have encountered. Thank you for watching this show. If you enjoyed it, please consider watching some of our other videos and maybe sharing them or giving a thumbs up if you feel like it. And if you really liked what you saw, please check out our Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you could help us make much better shows and get some rewards in the process. Or you could consider buying my book called Tale of Doom. Volume 1 is out now and available for just $2. And as always, if you thought it was horrible, you know where to find me and complain about it.